and welcome to the August 2nd, 2023 meeting of the Daytona Beach City Commission. We're delighted to have each of you with us this evening. Madam Clerk, may we please have a roll call?
Commissioner Paris?
Here.
Commissioner Strickland?
Here.
Commissioner May?
Here.
Commissioner Cantu?
Here.
Commissioner Henry? Commissioner Reed?
Here.
Mayor Derek L. Henry?
Here. At this time, we'll entertain a motion to excuse Commissioner Henry.
So moved.
Second.
We take a motion from Commissioner Reed and a second from Commissioner May. We will now have the invocation, which will be led by Chaplain Terry.
Mayor, you want to vote on that motion?
Oh, my apologies. May we, all those in favor of the said motion to excuse Commissioner Henry, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those in opposition, same sign. This motion carries 6-0. At this time, we will have the invocation, which will be led by Chaplain Terry, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Senator Wright.
Nice.
Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. We ask your blessings upon this occasion as we honor these men and women to the service of the Military Order of the Purple Heart of the United States of America. Each and every one gave some of themselves when they were wounded defending our God-given freedoms. We thank that you helped them to return to their families and friends. We thank them for their continued service to each other and to their communities. Bless us all and our service to God and country. May God, our Father, give you grace and peace. In your hallowed name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Joining me is Commissioner Cantu. Rolf, going to join us also? Sure. All right, we appreciate you. National Purple Heart Day. Whereas on this day we gather to honor and pay tribute to the brave men and women who have demonstrated unwavering courage and selflessness while serving in the United States Armed Forces. And whereas the Purple Heart is a prestigious and distinguished military decoration awarded to those who have been wounded or paid the ultimate sacrifice in combat while serving our great nation. And whereas Purple Heart Day is a solemn occasion for all Americans to express gratitude and appreciation to the valiant individuals who have shed their blood to safeguard the freedom and liberties we hold dear. And whereas the city of Daytona Beach is a Purple Heart city and is committed to honoring the legacy of the Purple Heart recipients and fostering an appreciation for our active duty military members, veterans, and their families, while also acknowledging the sacrifices made by those who bear the scars of war. And whereas let us join as a community to remember and honor the brave men and women who have served and continue to serve our nation with valor and distinction. By acknowledging their sacrifices and resilience, we express our sincere gratitude and commitment to always remember the price of freedom. Now, therefore, I, Derek L. Henry, Mayor of the City of Daytona Beach, and on behalf of the City Commission, do hereby proclaim August 7th, 2023 as National Purple Heart Day in the city of Daytona Beach, Florida, and ask our residents to honor the sacrifices recipients of the great honor have made for our country. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Turn to the manager. You in the middle this time.
Okay.
Don't want to
Yes.
step on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you need to go a little bit back.
Let's
Like we
make
need
one
a
more picture,
picture.
then you can say,
Oh, I see.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
okay, would you have a word?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for joining me. I want to especially thank some military organizations that have favored us with their presence. Vietnam Veterans of America, Post or Chapter 1048, the Veterans Museum, Marine Corps League, Detachment 658. Am I missing anybody? No? Okay. And the city of Daytona Beach, oh, the council, of course. Okay. I don't want to forget you guys, you know. I want to be able to get out of here. The city of Daytona Beach for continuing to recognize and appreciate for our active duty military members, veterans, and their families. And just aside from my personal experience, we have been treated so well by this council, by the city of Daytona, in all of our endeavors. We are really grateful. Today we gather here to commemorate a day of great significance and honor the brave souls who have sacrificed so much for our nation's freedom. Purple Heart Day, observed on August 7th each year, holds a deep and meaningful importance in our heart. As we reflect on the significance of Purple Heart Day, let us remember that it is not just a time to honor those who have received the Purple Heart Medal. It is also an opportunity to express our gratitude and support for all veterans, past and present, who have dedicated their lives to serving our country. Furthermore, let me acknowledge the families of those brave heroes who have shared in their sacrifices and endured the pain of separation and loss. Today, I urge each of you to take a moment to reflect on the freedoms we enjoy and the price that has been paid to preserve them. Let us come together as a nation to show our support and appreciation to those who have given so much in the name of liberty. Let us remember that the Purple Heart Medal is not just a piece of metal. It represents the heart and soul of our nation's heroes. God bless our veterans, and God bless the United States of America. Made you cry. Made you cry.
Now, good time.
Yeah.
Here you go. Oh, you come on, Ro. Let's all do it together.
Okay. Hey, no. No. Go. Oh, thank you. I apologize for the empty room.
Thank you, everybody.
Enjoy,
So much.
Thank you. Thank you.
enjoy the cupcakes out there.
We're used to him without a hat on.
Oh, these are reserved for those guys. Okay, we're good.
Well, okay.
Actually, no, we're very reserved people, see? We have such
If you're not a veteran, make sure you only take one cupcake. Veterans, take as many as you like.
glad I restrained myself.
That's what I know. We want to make sure that she don't take all of them. She'll eat them all. Okay.
Okay. We will now move on to item number 4A, approval of the minutes of the June 21st, 2023 City Commission workshop and the July 5th, 2023 regular meeting of the City Commission.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We'll take a motion from Commissioner Paris, a second from Commissioner Strickland. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. And let us note that Commissioner Henry is a part of the meeting. Okay. This time, we will have our agenda approval. If there are any changes, our city manager will address them.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, we do have a few changes. 8G, Finance Department Bike Week Sponsorship Funds, add the following requests. $400 to the Volusia County African American Leadership Council from the Bike Week funds of Commissioner Henry. $200 to the Volusia County African American Leadership Council from the Bike Week funds from Commissioner Reed. Add item 8H, Information and Technology Services, approve a project budget for $100,000 for the Seabreeze Camera Project, and authorizing the city manager or designee to make procurement expenditures up to the budgeted total. Those funds are coming from $80,000 from Commissioner Strickland and $20,000 from Mayor Henry. And we will be bringing back a request at another meeting for other commissioners who want to add funds for their zones.
We have a motion from Commissioner Reed and a second from Commissioner Paris. May? Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. Commissioner May. Okay. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, we're going to move on to, there are no presentations. We'll be moving on to item number 7, citizens' comments. During this time, citizens will have the opportunity to address the City Commission on any item on the consent agenda. Our first speaker is Frederick Brown. Sorry. He's the only speaker.
Moving faster than I anticipated. First off, thank you for recognizing my fellow veterans, and it's really appreciated by all of us that served. And remember that freedom is not free. My name is Frederick Brown, 1508 Crescent Ridge, Daytona Beach. I want to talk to you about item 8F on the consent agenda. And I know it's just another line item, another $100 and some thousand that we're spending of our taxpayers' money. And I've spoken to you about this before. There's two types of maintenance. There's predictive maintenance and there's reactive maintenance. And unfortunately, the city of Daytona Beach is still in the reactive maintenance mode. In the world of water and wastewater, it's a very small area of expertise of certain manufacturers which have a lock on the market. You're tonight approving a pump that was discontinued 5 years ago. They still are clearing out their old castings. But the point is, we're buying a dinosaur. We're paying full price from a sole source distributor. Now, had we done predictive maintenance, which is where you predict the failures in advance, the technology is here today. I know I did it many years ago for a major theme park, very successful. It saved a lot of money by anticipating the failures before they happen, so you're not up against the wall and saying, oh, gee, we got to spend another 100 and some thousand. This isn't the first time we've done this. And I know you all get these little printouts and staff says, oh, yeah, got to do it, otherwise we're not going to have wastewater. But this is where we need to start making some decisions. We need to start to be proactive, not reactive in this, and start getting predictive maintenance. Now, I am opposed to us single sourcing a pump that's already obsolete. Yes, parts will be available for a few years, but the point is you're buying a dinosaur. It's like, would you pay top dollar for a Model T Ford right now and expect to get the same kind of results you would out of a brand new Tesla? No. The point is, if you predict the failures, you plan ahead, and you then can get competitive bids from other manufacturers, you're not pigeonholed into a corner where you're forced to spend large amounts of our taxpayers' money. And you'll spend it more wisely on equipment that will last longer and better serve the citizens of Daytona Beach. I wish you would reconsider this, and if not, I still wish you would consider getting a very strong predictive maintenance program, especially in the water and wastewater area, which is critical to the daily operations of our city. Thank you very much.
As our final speaker, Mr. Mayor.
Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Take a motion from Commissioner Parrish and a second from Commissioner May. No further questions. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
We will now move on to our public hearings. Item 9A is Growth Management and Planning Department, Williamson Hand Plan Development, General PDG rezoning. This is an ordinance on second reading, public hearing. An ordinance amending the zoning map of the Land Development Code to rezone 34.9 plus or minus acres of property generally located in the northeast corner of the Williamson Boulevard and Hand Avenue intersection from multifamily residential 12, MFR 12 to PDG, Plan Development General, approving the Hand Avenue Plan District Agreement to authorize development of the property as a 325-unit multifamily residential development with associated parking, landscaping, and infrastructure, subject to certain conditions, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute the agreement, repealing all ordinance or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
So moved. Second.
Who's the motion? Who's first? Commissioner Henry and Commissioner Cantu. Have a motion from Henry, second from Cantu. Do we have questions or comments? Was it May? Well, that's why I asked. I was looking at these two and I saw them say it. Okay. All right, well, that's what it goes. Motion from Henry, second from Cantu. Do we have any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, we'll be moving on to item 9B. This is a public hearing. Public Works Department, approval of the preliminary and final plat for Oasis Phase 1. It's a resolution public hearing. A resolution approving the preliminary and final plat for Project Oasis Phase 1 subdivision on 95.84 plus or minus acres located south of LPGA Boulevard between Williamson Boulevard and Clyde Morris Boulevard, authorizing the city managers to sign the final plat and permit recordation thereof upon meeting certain conditions precedent and providing an effective date.
So moved. Second.
Was that Commissioner Henry and Commissioner Cantu?
Mr. Mayor, just real briefly, there's a minor technical error in the staff report. They They miswrote the acreage. It's 95.84 acres for both the preliminary and final plat, 5 lots, not 4 lots.
Okay. All right, do we have any questions or comments?
Can you repeat that?
The staff report mistakenly refers to the acreage for the final plat as being 46 some odd acres.
49.
Yeah, but it's 96. It's the same as the preliminary plat. It's 5 lots, not 4 lots. And they're supposed to be identical to one another, and they are. And they comply with all of the land development code requirements.
Okay.
And we have Jessica Gao here for any questions.
All right. All right, if we have no questions, all those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, we will be moving on to item 9C. It's a redevelopment and neighborhood services department, approval of the 2023-24 City of Daytona Beach Annual Action Plan. This is a resolution public hearing, a resolution adopting the 2023-24 Annual Action Plan for the city's Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, and Home Investment Partnership Grant programs, approving submission of the plan to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, authorizing execution of deeds, contracts, and other documents necessary to implement the plan, increasing the city manager's small purchase authority under Section 30-52A of the Purchasing Code to $50,000 for the purchase of goods and services made in implementation of the plan, and providing an effective date.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Reed and a second from Commissioner Henry. Do we have any questions?
I have a question. The implementation of 50,000, is that just for this, or is that across the board?
It's just for purchases made under this program using these federal funds.
Okay, thank you.
If you recall, my first encounter with Ann Ruby dealt with this particular item.
Yeah, last year. Yes. All right. Do we have any questions? All right, got a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, we're moving on to our administrative items. Item 10A is City Manager's Office, Economic Development. Approval of forgiving a $112,000 loan for a meeting house at Daytona, a low-income senior housing development. This is a resolution for giving a $112,000 loan to Finley Development LLC, approved by ordinances number 05399 and 06112, associated with Finley's development of meeting house at Daytona, an affordable housing development located at 850 North Clyde Morris Boulevard, authorizing the city manager to execute all documents necessary to give effect to this resolution and providing an effective date.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Reed and a second from Commissioner Strickland. Do we have any questions or comments? All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Moving on to item 10B. It's a Growth Management and Planning Department First Amendment, Walmart Sam's Club PD, Plan Development General, PDG, rezoning. This is an introduction of an ordinance on first reading. An ordinance approving the First Amendment to the Walmart Supercenter Sam's Club Plan Commercial Development Agreement to add telephone call center as a permitted use, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute the First Amendment, repealing all ordinance or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. And are there any questions or comments from the City Commission?
No.
Our public hearing and final action will be on August 16th, 2023. Moving on to item 10C is a Growth Management and Planning Department, Ridgewood Fairview Small Scale Comprehensive Plan Amendment. This is an introduction of ordinance on first reading. An ordinance adopting a small scale comprehensive plan amendment in accordance with 163-3187 Florida statutes, amending the future land use map designation of 2.9 plus or minus acres on property generally located along both north and south of Fairview Avenue, between Cottrell Avenue and Michigan Avenue, from level 2 residential L2R to office transition OT, repealing all ordinance or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. And are there any questions or comments? The public hearing and final action will be held on August 16th, 2023. We will now move on to item 10D. It's the Growth Management and Planning Department, Ridgewood Fairview Residential Professional rezoning. This is an introduction of an ordinance on first reading, an ordinance amending the zoning map of the Land Development Code to rezone 0.4 plus or minus acres of property generally located along both north and south of Fairview Avenue between Cottrell Avenue and Michigan Avenue from business professional BP to residential professional RP, repealing all ordinance or parts of ordinance in conflict herewith and providing effective date. And are there any questions or comments from the commission? And the public hearing and final action will be August 16th, 2023. And that was the final item on the administrative section of the agenda, Mr. Mayor.
All right, guess we'll move on to item 11, commission discussion, city attorney's office, mayoral and commission salary review. City attorney to report on standards and procedures.
Mayor, did you want to have city commissioner comments first, or would you like me to go ahead and introduce this item?
We'll have the city commission comments first. That might take longer, so, okay. Where do we start tonight? Okay. Commissioner Parrish? I scribbled them out. Pledge of Allegiance. It starts with Commissioner Parrish. Oh, okay. That's all right. Just no comments? Okay. Commissioner Strickland?
No comment.
This is our regular comments, right?
Yes.
I do have a comment regarding our PDs. I would like to see, can everybody hear me? I would like to see, most of all the development is happening in my zone, which will eventually happen in your zone as well. A lot of our PDs that are coming before us have so many land uses in those PDs, and so they automatically come back to be amended. And I feel like we're told one thing, and my residents are told one thing, and then all of a sudden they come back and they're amended. So I would like to see if our planning department can go back and look at this, and we have a more stricter, I guess you would call it, plan when it comes before us, and without all these land uses, because some of these PDs have about 10 to 15. It's like warm, fuzzy PDs that are coming in before us, and they always come back to be amended. I rather see it come back instead of being amended, a whole new PD, if they were going to change something. And so I want to see if I can get any support on that, to have them look at that.
What does that look like? What does it mean from a staff perspective?
Can Dennis come up here, or Jim?
Huh?
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, Commission. Jim Morris, Deputy City Manager. Our perspective is that we can narrow the uses, and in fact, prior to Commissioner Cantu bringing it up, we'd had a staff meeting and we discussed making them narrower because there is such a laundry list so many times. We got one that was a beachfront lot to do temporary parking, and it had a couple of uses in there. I thought, you know, you've got to be kidding. And we had decided independently, of discussion with Commissioner Cantu, that we would begin to narrow the list down. The PDs are supposed to be tailored to a situation, to a particular request, and not a shotgun approach to everything that you can make stick on the wall. And the other part of it is, if you look at it from a policy perspective, you have a use that you can review and approve, you have timelines that you put into the PDs, and then you also have the ability to say, well, these are things I think are appropriate, perhaps there are other things I want to wait and see, and you have the opportunity then, when it's current, if someone comes back and says, I want X that I didn't put in, you can evaluate X at the time they come to you and make their case for that. Now, it would consume some time, that's true. The other hand is we've got PDs that have been around for a long time with no action. So it's a mixed bag. We do think, collectively, we think that the uses can be narrowed, and we intend to do that.
So what do we need to do from a policy perspective to ensure that this transpires?
Oh,
Okay.
yes, sir.
What was that, Beatrice?
So just ask us to look at this and bring something back to you of how we change our.
Can I ask a
PDs.
question?
We would simply do it as list by list, item by item as it comes in and try to determine things we think are appropriate. Someone may say, well, I think I also ought to have something else, and they could ask the commission to include it if that's what the commission wanted to do. Staff is always governed by the commission's wishes, but our intent was, because they are such laundry list type things, to narrow it, because there's things that are asked for that you'll never see, and it gives choice, but it's not necessarily the best choice to have in everything that's done. And we're not going to try to be overly restrictive, but we're also going to try to pay attention to the necessity of it and what would be appropriate, in our opinion. And someone can disagree with what someone else thinks is appropriate. We know that, and they can bring that to the commission's attention if that's what they wish to do.
Right. What I'm trying to stop is one PD or have 10 different uses, okay? I'm being told and residents are being told one thing and then something else, it'll never happen. And then 6 months later, 7 months later, they're coming back and there's not much I can do because it's already there, the land use. So I rather see a whole new PD coming back before me instead of amending all these PDs constantly.
That was not our
It's a
intention.
bad impression to the residents as well, because we're telling them one thing and then we're coming back and saying, sorry, this is allowed, there's not much I can do about it.
And so I understand what Commissioner Cantu wants, which I think is a good idea, but is what you're saying the same thing as what
No,
she's
ma'am,
requesting?
it's not. The process is the same, but you would start with a list of uses and narrow that list of uses down. So when you look at the document, we use a form document from the city attorney's office. It is tailored to a certain extent to meet particular purposes. So the form, or the frame, if you will, is very similar from document to document, and you can see that from what you previously looked at. Our focus was more on the use of list of uses, because there is so much stuff included oftentimes. It's been a practice, and I think it's overreaching in terms of what they're asking the commission to approve. So I'm not suggesting that you go through the whole process again, because it really does then become a more cumbersome procedure for everybody.
So my
When we are doing this, so we have all these land uses in here, and why they're in there is so they can actually get through the door, okay? They get through the door and tell us what they want. Then they come back, before they come back, the reason the land uses are there because they're out shopping. What can they do with the rest of the remaining? Well, that's where I think they need to come back for a whole new PD.
So I don't
And
disagree.
actually, we're losing money as well.
I don't disagree with the idea of narrowing the uses, but when you start to do the whole new document over, it turns into an entirely different kind of beast. But you're the commission, and certainly you direct us, we'll go forward.
And
So-
Jim, let me ask this question. If they want to change what they've presented, they still have to come back to.
Yes, sir, they do.
Yes.
They do.
So, again, I agree with Commissioner Cantu, but I'm not hearing the same thing in what you're saying.
No, ma'am, we're not
One
saying the
second,
same
One
thing.
second. What I'm hearing is restricting the land usage. That's what I'm hearing, narrowing it down, which is fine. What I'm hearing Commissioner Cantu saying, correct me please, is it's the fact that even, let's say they get the restriction, they're still going to come back and maybe try and make another change. So her issue is really after the fact, and yours is before the fact, and my issue is restricting the land use.
Okay.
That's where I'm at, but that's just my opinion.
What I'm saying is to restrict the list of uses. I'm not saying that somebody may come back and ask for something more, but to try and make it more tailored and more direct to the property versus just anything you can think of in the existing zoning on the property, and then add a few more things, which is what you've been seeing.
And I guess my other concern with that is, land uses change, right? They change over time. And so then are we locked into something for years and years and years? We are in that position sometimes now. That's my thought.
You're locked into it for the term of the agreement, and the commission had previously directed to shorten the terms of the agreements where they'd been quite long, 5, maybe 10 years. And what you're seeing now is documents coming in with a 2 to 4 year, sometimes 5-year window. So the window has been decreased at the commission's direction, and probably, I think, commission comments had indicated that's what the commission wanted to see, and we've done that. And even before Commissioner Cantu brought this up, as I said, we had looked at it collectively and decided we needed to tighten it up. And when you think about a PUD document, it's really 2 things: the list of uses that you can have and the dimensions you got to conform to.
But I still don't think it's going to address her concern. I still think, if I'm understanding you, it's after the fact, not what you're discussing.
It is both things.
With
Because
putting
you,
all the land uses, it actually saves them money as well. And and they get in the door, and then after they get in the door, they come back 6 months later, 7 months later, and amending the PD, and the land use is already in there. We put way too many land uses in those PDs. They're warm and fuzzy, and we have no control of them. And so I get what you're saying to a point. I'm okay with it. But I would like to know up front, because the reason we're doing this is so they can shop. Okay. And I am not against development, but there is a limit there where we need to say, hey, we just ain't going to allow everything to come in there unless you come back before us.
I agree with you. And that's actually, in that respect, we are talking about the same thing. It's narrowing the list on the front end. And if somebody says, well, I needed X and I didn't get it because staff wouldn't support it, they can ask the commission to do that. Mayor, if I might, I see Commissioner Strickland.
I have a question. If we quit, we just stop approving PDs and just do straight zoning, wouldn't that put a stop to all this?
Work unless it's smaller properties.
I was asking the,
Yes, sir. I think what you do then is tie your hands and make yourself unable to do things that you'd probably want to do. You can be more discriminating in terms of what you approve and you don't approve. The PD works in a lot of instances, but there is the other zoning is what we refer to as straight zoning. You go to the restaurant, you can get A, B, or C on the menu, and there's no substitutes.
okay. I misunderstood when you asked for comments. I thought we were still on the raise thing. So when you get through, I'd like to comment on that. I mean,
So how are you going to decide? That's what I'd like to know. How are you going to decide what's appropriate in each area?
That's what I said. The commission and the staff and the applicant may all have different opinions in terms of what's appropriate. But from a staff perspective, we work in this stuff day in, day out, locationally, and you look at things that have come up, and there's, like I said, one that's coming to you pretty soon that's on Ocean Avenue. There were things listed in there that I thought there is no way in the world that ought to be put on that property, either from a standpoint of what fits with the area, impacts the side properties, those sort of things, and we told the people they need to reduce that list. The commission can look at it too, because you have roughly the same experience that we do in terms of knowing the community, knowing what you think works and what doesn't work. You can delete or add things in the list as you look through it prior to an item coming before you. We can work that stuff out, and people can add things later. I think going to kill this agreement and do a whole new agreement 6 months or 8 months down the line is probably overkill from a staff and commission point of view, but that's something for the commission to decide. It's my opinion and only my opinion, and we will do what the staff commission directs us to do.
We have more control if we're doing.
You do. You do.
We don't
Well-
have as much control when we're amending PD.
We had a lot more control before we did PDs, and that's just a fact. And what he's suggesting is that we just go back to straight land code and then make amendments to the code, or not an amendment, but an exception.
It's what you do, Mayor, technically speaking. When you do a rezoning, ordinary straight rezonings is, like I said, it's a menu. The comp plan governs the overall land use, so something that fits in that umbrella. Then there's probably, say, 3 straight zoning categories that are going to fit that land use to a certain extent. T1, T2, 3 is an example. You would say to an applicant, you don't like what's there and you want to make an amendment, move to amend the map. When you amend the zoning map from A designation to B designation, you simply amend the map. The content of the zoning applicable to the property is the same. It's set out in the zoning. If it's B zoning, here's what you can do. If it's A zoning, here's what you can do. So you make an amendment to the map to say, my property used to be zone A, it's now zone B, I can do what's allowed in the B zone, and I'm using the AB just for purposes of explanation. We don't have either one of those. So the menu is what's in that particular item. It's like breakfast special number 1 or breakfast special number 4. You simply have the map reflect what that's going to be.
Why are you so against amending?
I'm not. This is a philosophical discussion. There's pros and cons to it.
Okay.
And that's all. It's just a matter of philosophy and what you think is appropriate. And as a commission, you could say, what we want to do is see straight rezonings come in. We'll tell the applicants that. And they may come to you and say, Commission, you told us to do it this way. For us, it just doesn't work, and they can make their case to you, and you can decide.
Well, I don't mind having a PD. I just don't want all those land uses in there. I want more of a site plan, what is expected. The reason we have all those land uses is it's easy to figure it out.
Sure.
Because they're shopping.
As I said, you and I when you mentioned this to me in the office, I said to you, we already had considered restricting the list of uses because it's being spread so far out. And there are other things that we can do too, and if you want us to, we can come back. I think as the manager had suggested, we can give you a memorandum that suggests changes that we can make. What I'm trying to avoid for both you and for the staff is that you overwork yourselves on a question that you don't have to overwork yourselves on. But we will do whatever you direct, and I can argue either side anytime, but I'm just saying there's more than one point of view in your question. So I don't disagree with you, it's just there's other things to think about.
I bet former Commissioner Traeger is probably sitting here looking like, this is why for years she just voted against PDs and just voted against PDs because they annoyed her and she didn't know what she was getting, which I never really disagreed with her, but I understood where we were as a community. And PDs, for all practical purposes, make it easier for the staff, make it easier for the potential developer. And I was okay with that for a while, but I never disagreed with her about our need to tighten this down.
I don't like to disagree with you, Mayor, but straight zoning is easier for the staff. Absolutely easier.
Well, maybe easier for the staff. It's not easier it wasn't easier for the previous manager because he wanted to have the developers have more of an opportunity to develop.
Yeah, from a staff
Maybe I should
perspective,
say
it makes
that
our
from
life
your
much simpler.
perspective, I
Yes, sir.
understand that. But my point is, it made it easier for the developer, and that was good for a season, but I don't know if that's good for this season. And I think that's Commissioner Strickland's point. Maybe we should have more control and look at everything and have them to have a greater expectation at this point. That's for you all to decide. I've never been totally opposed to that.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just to be clear, and this isn't to advocate for or against planned developments, but if the city did more with straight zoning and it did not also make other changes to the code, most development approvals would be done at a staff level. You wouldn't be seeing nearly as many approvals. So that's because the rules in the land development code are more certain and cookie cutter, and even site plan reviews for a lot of large projects that were not 20,000 square feet or more, those would be approved administratively once the rezoning occurred. So
This is why
That's
I
correct.
want a PD and I want all these land uses taken out of this PD where it can come back with a new PD. And a stricter site plan. Because I am tired of telling my residents one thing, and then I have to turn around and tell them, sorry, this is happening, and, oh, nothing really I can do, the land use is already in there. So I want to be able to, it might be harder for you guys, it might be harder for us, but we have more control to negotiate about a development coming before us.
It's simple from our perspective to say 3 land uses instead of 20 land uses. We can do that all the time. The applicants have requested that, and the commission has looked at that. And if the commission says the wind has changed, it's from our standpoint, technically, we're able to go any direction you wish to go and do it proficiently.
Okay. I would probably, I don't know about the rest of the commission, I would probably be okay with maybe 2, maybe 3 land uses, but I am tired of all these 10 and 15 land uses in one PD. Okay.
So you guys are telling me that straight zoning, it may appeal to them and staff may approve them, but if they don't get what they want, they still have to come to us.
Yes.
And the majority of them probably don't have what they want. That's why they're asking for 15 different opportunities in one PD.
Well, there's no question that there's speculation involved in those. That's a true statement. It's more the square peg, round hole situation where you've got odd shapes of property. As an example, the county mandates 50-foot environmental buffers. There are instances where 50 feet continuous is very difficult to maintain, and you've worked on averages, and you've been able to do that with PDs without having to go through variances and that sort of thing. So there is more certainty in the process to a certain extent, and there are things we can do to make it more restrictive. But, and I'll say it again, whatever the commission directs us to do is where we will go. And frankly, Mayor, test case may be the next PD that you see. And just to take a look at it and think about this discussion, or you may want to say, we really want to see straight zonings as the first alternative, and let somebody come forward and try to do that. And there's a number of ways to address it, but I understand this is perhaps a question of most recent impression, and there may be some need for the commission to think. But we can answer the questions, whatever questions you may have, I can probably answer right now.
I'm understanding something. So it takes us out of the loop in the decision-making process if we go with your route?
No, ma'am.
How does that work?
No. So I just gave you alternatives. I haven't dictated a route. So the discussion has been the current state of PDs, which is super broad in terms of included uses. Commissioner Cantu's suggestion is don't let it be super broad, make it be more tailored, make it be more specific. 2 to 3 uses dictate pretty well in a site plan what can happen. That won't be a site plan that shows you necessarily a building. It may show you architectural details. It may show you an envelope of construction. It may show you an envelope of the building.
But that will be up to us to say to them, this
It's up
is
to
what
you.
we're looking for.
Yeah.
Oh.
Straight zoning is the property zoned, let's just call it R1. That's a residential zoning. It's got a minimum lot size. It has requirements for platting. It has all those things. You got R1 zoning, you submit a plat, we process the plat, and it's recorded. You would sign off on the plat. But your discretion as a commission is very limited in application of that zoning because all the decisions that are legislative or quasi-judicial have already been made when you pass the ordinance or you applied the map. In the PD, you have the opportunity to look at the terms and provisions and say, I like that deal or I don't like that deal. Or if you did this, I would like the deal. Presently, I don't. And that's where, as Mr. Gross pointed out, in typical straight zoning, unless the use or the thing exceeds 20,000 square feet in area, the building or whatever it is, the commission will not see that even at site plan. The site plan will be approved at the planning board level if it's above 20,000. If it's less than 20,000.
Reduce that number.
Sir?
But that number could be reduced.
It could be
Wasn't
reduced.
always 20,000.
No, sir, it could be reduced. But even when you get there, you're dealing with, does it materially comply with the code requirements? Not, I don't like it, so you can't do it. You have to find that it fails to comply with the requirements of the code. We're obligated legally to approve those. The commission's obligated to let that approval occur, and that's why the straight zoning, in some ways, is easier because we can't argue about a whole lot. It either does or doesn't fit. It does create the possibility of greater variances in some things. Use variances are illegal in Florida law, so you can't say, I've got A use, can I get a variance for B use? They're not permitted under Florida law. But all the dimensional components are allowed to be varied if someone can make a case for a hardship. Hardship by definition is a very difficult thing to demonstrate, but practically they get passed very often.
Mr. Mayor, if I can, I haven't been doing land use as long as Mr. Morris, but I've been at this for 30 years in 3 different jurisdictions. Jurisdictions do these PD agreements differently. At one point, when I first started working in Daytona Beach in 2000, we had very restrictive requirements for plan developments, and I think as a result, we didn't have a lot of plan developments, and that may have been an argument as to why property didn't develop. That's a business side argument, doesn't concern me, but we required full-scale site plans meeting all of our requirements at the time of a PD agreement.
They were engineered details that happened before you ever knew whether or not you could build that engineered plan, and the front-end expense on that and the time involved was substantial. And that's Ben's right. Virtually no one did it because it was so restrictive. It was really pretty ridiculous to do. Plus, there was a minimum lot size where you couldn't really tailor where you needed to. Those two things were the central features that moved from the engineered plans to the site plan type approach but it's a fairly broad plan. There is obviously lots of differences between those two poles that can be addressed.
And so what happened over time is I think there was a conscious on the city's part relaxation of how tightly, how clearly the PD needed to describe what's permitted. And I know because staff's already started hearing these comments that you want to go back from that relaxed standpoint more than you've been. And there are things that we can do in terms of looking at our land development code, to see what's required of a PD. And we can make changes to the form plan development agreement that maybe we could bring to the commission. But at some point, you just have to decide, do you want a full-scale site plan, which will, as Mr. Morris said, require the developer to front-end significant costs just to see if they're going to get approved, with the result being that you won't have that many planned developments. Do you want to have completely conceptual, loosey-goosey PD agreements? You want to go somewhere in the middle? It sounds like you want to go somewhere in the middle.
I will say this, for any PDs that we have in process now, you can plan on tomorrow morning that list of uses, I'd already focused on one in particular. I'll have the staff look at all of them and tighten that up considerably. I understand the discussion. In looking at the commission, it seems like in general terms, there's probably some idea that should be what the case is. If I'm mistaken about that, then please correct me, but we can do that immediately with nothing more than the discussion we're having now.
What we can do then, if we're going to tighten those up, the PDs could come out in front of us. We can look at all the land uses and ask you, okay, this doesn't match this. Why is this in there?
Sure.
Okay.
And more often, the answer will come from the applicant than from the staff, because they're advocating. We're simply evaluating and trying to do it.
Up front,
Sure.
instead of 6 months down the road.
Yes, ma'am.
And actually,
But I will say, you don't see it until it's gone through the planning board and comes to you.
correct. And, well, actually, I watch the planning boards. But actually, we just need to do something because this is getting out of hand, all these land uses, and then we tell residents one thing, and I have to go back and tell them something different afterwards, and it gets exhausting.
Sure.
I mean, that's why they don't believe any of them.
But we can immediately tighten up a lot of it, but I'm not advocating that that's the way you should go. That's purely a policy choice, and whatever choices you make, we can do.
Can we just have staff bring back some recommendations?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, because
Well, but before we do that, I think that we should make a decision that we would like the ones that are in motion to be curbed and curtailed back towards the direction that Commissioner Cantu is speaking of, because I agree with that, at a minimum. But I think I'm more on the other side, and have been for a long time, have been for 2 years, really wishing to curtail things, and I was here when we moved.
Well, you maintain the discretion at all times. The example I can think of that I've heard most often is the small home, small lot discussion. And unless we come in and amend across the board and put that everywhere, pretty much, the only way we get there under our current methodology is with a PD-style approach. So it has its advantages, and it avoids some things that you don't necessarily want to do. But the commission in the PD process has the greatest discretion that you have in terms of zoning, because you can negotiate terms. In a zoning map amendment, which is a rezoning hearing too, it's you choose the category requested or maintaining the category that's there. That's about the edge of your discretion in that respect, and you're kind of locked in. But as Commissioner Reed has requested, and as I said, Mayor, unless I misread the faces on the commission, we can begin tightening up right away if that is the consensus the commission wishes us to
Anyone
take.
who's opposed to that?
It has to be, I'm not saying all cases, but it has to be hard on our utilities too. They plan for one thing, and then so it's later, they're planning for something else at that same location. So I want to make it easier for all of our employees as well. And like I said, I'm not saying to get rid of all the land uses, 2, 3, but I'm tired of all of them in there just so they can go shop around. And I want to know up front what I can tell my residents.
The PDs typically have thresholds as it relates to water and sewer loads as well as trip loads. Often they have both those things in there. We'll go do, if that's the direction of the commission, and also follow Commissioner Reed's request in terms of alternatives and so on.
Is there any opposition to those two things?
No, but I just have a question for Mr. Morris.
Yes, ma'am.
Does staff look at the vision plan? We had this vision plan that all of the residents met. I think you headed it up, right, for the vision plan that we have?
I was on the visioning plan.
Yes.
I wasn't the chair. I was the chair of one of the committees.
Well, I read it and not much has changed as what the residents want to see. So when staff is having a conversation with the applicant, do we go off of that plan to see?
No, ma'am. It doesn't have any binding legal effect. We look at the comp plan and what the comp plan dictates.
So, but does planning look at what the need is in that area?
Sure.
Okay.
We look at compatibility, we look at need, and need is a relative term because you so often have, as you've seen in this market, people trying to get ahead of the market for what they perceive the need to be. And we don't try to substitute someone else's perception of the market for ours because we aren't in that business. Our function is more to look at compatibility and ability in respect to roadways, water, sewer, those sorts of things, and then deal with the perimeter aspects of the impact of this on the things that are there if there's other development there. Compatibility is really more where we focus. And in terms of persons' visions, everybody has a vision. They have public hearings that they can come and tell you whether it's their vision or not.
So what was the point of doing the vision plan?
So people could express what their thoughts were and they can take a look at it and the commission can take a look at it. But when you have staff, and I've had spoken so often to staff members as we're here, you don't want us to be broadly discretionary as to how we feel about something. And that's why I keep saying to y'all, tell us what you want so we can go do what you've told us you want. Don't let me tell somebody what I want. I personally won't. And if I find someone of my staff doing that, I promise you, I cut them off in a hurry. It is what the commission directs, what the commission wants. It isn't what I feel like today ought to happen or what somebody feels like today ought to
I
happen.
don't like to be told what they want.
4 out of 7 tells me what you want. And that's, we operate on that, I operate on it very strictly. And I try to make sure our staff does as well because we aren't policymakers, you are. And your policy is expressed in the decisions why what you approve or don't approve. And we'll bring it to you and we can explain it to you. We can talk both sides, do all the things you want us to do. But the value decisions are commission decisions, not staff decisions. And I never want to have a staff decision supersede a commission decision.
I think we've all agreed what we want, so if you can go
We can do it.
do that. and
Yes,
bring it
ma'am.
back.
So look for some tightened up PDs very shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Commissioner Strickland? Oh, I'm sorry.
I have one more thing. Go right.
I know, but I'm going back to Commissioner Strickland, but I'll let you finish.
Okay.
He asked to go again.
And I don't have it pulled up. Okay, so FDOT has a project plan, is having a meeting over at George Ingram on August 22nd, Tuesday, August 22nd at 5:30 regarding Mason Avenue. So I'd just like the residents to be there because they're going over the project.
Which location?
George Ingram, Cherry Center.
Okay. Going backwards, Commissioner Strickland.
Oh, I guess I was a little distracted. I thought you were asking for comments on the city's attorney's office
No.
and the raises. So I had no comment
Yeah,
at that time.
okay.
However, I want to thank you, city manager, the chief, IT, Hassan, and all the people that were involved with making that happen for the Seabreeze corridor with the cameras and the lighting. That's going to go a long way, I think, to calming that area down on the weekends. The other thing, I'm just putting this out here. I'm not asking for it. I'm just putting an idea out there. We have parking issues. I hear people saying, well, we need more parking. During Bike Week, and I know we don't care how other cities do it unless special circumstances, but over in Leesburg, they allow high school bands and other charitable organizations to man the extra parking in parking lots during that special event over there. I was approached by a property owner. Would they be able to get a special use permit during Bike Week and Biketoberfest if they committed half of what comes in that gate to a charity such as First Step Shelter or something along those lines. I don't know if we can do that, if that would be quid pro quo or whatever. We'd have to get some clarification over there. However, you know, it's just something for us to think about rather than bringing it up right down once we get to Biketoberfest or Bike Week. I kind of like the idea, but if nobody else likes it, I understand that as well. But I think that would be a way to help our community, some of our organizations that operate off of charity. So just something to think about going forward. And that's all my comments for tonight. Thank you.
Okay.
My question to that would be, would the residents who are going to be impacted, who are in that area, do they have a chance to, you know, is there going to be a public meeting about this? Are we going to have a conversation, take it to them to find out? Because I'm having an imagination, let's say, of somebody is doing their nonprofit parking here, and I've got maybe 2 or 3 houses on either side who maybe aren't appreciating that, maybe don't share in that vision, and the impact on them. And I'm wondering if we're going to include them in that conversation.
I would think that we would include everybody in, around anybody that applied for a special use permit. However, most of the ones that I'm talking about are the ones that are not included in the Bike Week Master Plan or Biketoberfest Master Plan, that have parking for their business already but would be willing to do that.
Well, you know, I don't know the details. You know, the proof or the support is always in the details. So I think.
And I'm sorry, how far out of the Bike Week Master Plan are they exactly? If they were to come, is there a radius? Are we speaking, let's say, East ISB properties that have a hard time getting a special use permit, and now because it's for a nonprofit reason, it suddenly makes a difference, but it still impacts a particular neighborhood? Are we talking about that? Are we talking about within the area? How far out were you thinking? I'm just curious.
That would be something we'd have to discuss. I'm just putting it out there for us to talk about it. I'm not advocating for or against it. If it's working in Leesburg, why can't Daytona get it to work, is what I was thinking.
Because we're Daytona and the community is set up slightly differently, and we have some businesses with really large parking lots that are sitting right on the fringe of residential neighborhoods. There's literally just a fence separating them.
We also have some people that own property that, as we speak, as recently as past holiday weekends, that were selling $20 parking spaces on vacant lots without a permit. It would be a way to bring them into compliance and make some money for some charities if they're going to continue to do that. They're going to do it whether we approve it or not, apparently.
Okay. I don't know enough about it, the details, so I would suggest that staff can take a look at it and just tell us what this might look like. I'm always interested in seeing how I can get some money into the coffers at First Step, or how I can get some money into the band program at Campbell or Mainland, or some money for the Humane Society, or a whole bunch of things that we're constantly supporting. But I don't know. You know, I know this is the first I've ever heard of any such proposal, but I always like to see the details and then make a decision. But to your original point, it wouldn't be something we would decide without people having an opportunity to.
People opportunity, I mean, not just saying, hey, could you show up on a Wednesday night? More along the lines of, you know, directly letting those neighborhoods say, letting them know, and this is going to be the impact that we are suggesting. And I'm going to say it, you know, I have to say it. So we don't, just because we're throwing the phrase nonprofit, doesn't mean that that is okay for some of the residents just because we're using the phrase nonprofit, nor designating certain nonprofits or bringing them up. It's the entire concept and the impact that it has in the surrounding areas. That's just my thought. But if we are going to have that conversation, then I would appreciate if we could notify the residents in whichever area Commissioner Strickland is thinking, notify them quite a ways out and let them know, hey, this is what's coming.
Commissioner Strickland, could you meet with me to let me know the areas you're talking about, and so staff could evaluate that and bring something to the commissioners to discuss?
That would be good. You and I could take a drive around and look at parking
I may
along
have
those
a
lines.
staff member do that. That is an expert, but we'll take care of it.
I thought we hired you as our expert.
And I'll just let y'all look at it.
Yeah, just let us look at it. And I don't want to imply that because it's nonprofit that it just is, anything will go. But I will say this, we make exceptions. That's what Bike Week is. That's what those special events are. So, and part of the reason that, we get the Bike Week funds here that support our community. So I am looking for ways to generate revenues to support things that are important in our community. So I'm not opposed to that. Okay. Commissioner Henry? No comments? Commissioner Reed?
Yes, sir, I just want to mention some things that are happening. Tomorrow we have the Put the Guns Down
Yes.
program at the Cherry Center, starting at 6 p.m. for the community to come out. And as you know, we have had several lives taken by guns, our young people. So we need to talk about this as a community and try to bring a stop to that as much as we possibly can. Then on Saturday, the grand opening of the Dickerson Center. My last official act as the commissioner of that zone. Just excited about this. I actually went to this center in elementary school, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade. So I'm excited about that. And my mother went there for high school.
Wow.
And on Friday night, I believe our police has something, don't they, Mr. Manager?
Night out.
A night out? Can you tell us more about that? I didn't see this in the flyer. Yes.
National Night Out.
Chief?
It's Friday,
no, I
5 to
didn't
8
see 'em.
at the Cherry Center,
Friday, 5 to 8 at the Cherry Center.
National Night Out.
National Night Out.
You want to tell us about National Night Out?
His dancing skills are always on display.
Good evening, everybody. Chief Jakari Young. As already stated, Friday night is our National Night Out at the Cherry Center. It begins at 6 p.m. It is, a very festive event. Last year, we did it over at Derbyshire. We had a great turnout. We also have school supplies that we'll be giving out. Several vendors will be setting up at the Cherry Center offering various services. And I think the timing is perfect. So as already stated by Commissioner Reed, we have our community meeting on Thursday night, and then I plan on inviting everybody Thursday to come back out and join us in a more festive occasion or festive event on Friday night for National Night Out.
Beautiful.
I think they're gonna kick off about 5. The boy on the flyer, they come out at 5.
5 on Friday night?
Yep.
5
Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
That concludes. Yes, ma'am.
They had the grand opening of the Council on Aging, and they have their Daytona Beach dining site for seniors. So it's 60 and over, Monday through Friday, from 9 a.m. to 1:30, and lunch is served from 11:30 to 12:30. And that is at, I don't know what the building name is, next to the Dickerson.
It's the Cherries, it's the Dickerson Center, McHale
McHale
Brown.
McHale Brown, so it would be on the side of the Dickerson Center, which is 308 South Martin Luther King. And I'm really excited about the park opening, rec center.
If I may say something regarding that, there was a concern. We used to have, on Fridays in that building, our sewing, crafty ladies. Have we made provision for them to go somewhere else on Friday?
What time did they have that?
They had it during the day, like 10 to 2. They'd have their little food and they would do their crafts. They made hats and blankets and stuff they gave out during Christmas for free. They knitted and purled and,
Yeah, they gave me a,
yeah, they want to start back.
they gave me a
COVID stopped all the stuff
blanket
that we
one
were
time.
doing. They sure did. They gave us both
us
a
both
blanket.
a blanket.
Yours is a Steelers blanket and mine was a lovely cream blanket.
That's right.
With gold thread.
They sure did. Good
I'll
old lady.
follow up with,
Yeah,
Please
let's
do.
make sure they have a home.
Because I bought them a sewing machine, so they ready.
and what were they called? Crafty?
Crafty sewing ladies.
Good, good. Thank you for remembering that.
Oh, you know my aunt.
Okay, anything else? I could have said nothing, but I must say this. The Dickerson Center was the home of, as Commissioner Reed has said, the old Campbell Street Centipedes. And was never much to it. And for those of you who have been here, you remember what Cypress Street was like. And when you see those facilities and what they were, sort of reminds me of a different age and a different generation and a different time. When resources allocated weren't quite equivalent. And if you remember, and I didn't know it growing up because what you have is what you have. And sometimes you don't know that what you have is not what other people have. But when I've been to the Dickerson Center 3 or 4 times, just checking it out and talking with some of the children there to see about the sliding board or slide that some adults report it gets too hot. The children let me know that yes, it gets hot, but they know how to slide and get up before they burn. Just like I guess I did when I rode down the metal slide board. But I'm saying all of this to say that to staff and to this commission, when you look at the Cherry Center and you look at the Dickerson Center, and I think back to my own initiative 2 years ago, which was about equity in our community, this idea of, creating an equitable funding equation in our community, not just for us, but we had Halifax and Daytona State and Embry-Riddle and different businesses participating. When you go to Dickerson Center, y'all did a good job. I mean, not only a good job, and quite an amazing job. I'm beyond pleased with what I see and what we've been able to do. And I'm yet excited about Daisy because if we don't do anything else, we are showing that we're not going to be unfair with what we do, and things that may have been historically wrong or underfunded as Midtown was, because it was really a dump of a facility. But I know that the folks who grew up there might not like me calling it that, including my dad, who loved Cypress Street Gym. But it's a much different place today. And I say all of that to say that if you go to our schools in Daytona Beach, we have 10 schools in our city. And pretty much every one of them has been or is under reconstruction. Cherokee, I believe, will be the last one that will be a new school, essentially. And so I'm appreciative of that, and I'm appreciative of what we're doing to make things, just better in the way with the funds that we have. But the Dickerson Center, 10 stars. And I say that to anyone who had anything to do with working on that project. Mr. Manager, did you have anything?
Yes. Thank you, Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, for that. We are probably the Parks and Rec are going to probably be stressed out with me because our goal is to make the Dickerson Center complex the intergenerational center for our community, that young people and old people will work together and create programming from community gardens to computer classes and stuff where interaction will take place, things that y'all have talked about. And so we're working on that, and I think it will be a signature program for Daytona Beach that people will model based off having the Council on Aging there, the gymnasium, classrooms, weight rooms, Boys and Girls Club. And so we need them to not just sit in their different buildings, but also work together to create that. So I think that's going to be very good, and it's because of what you all have done as far as the funding that you provided to Public Works and Parks and Rec to make those things happen. A Chance for Redemption is a play that's coming here about Midtown. It's a very good play. Lynn Thompson has met with us. The Daytona State College has partnered with the city, with our redevelopment boards to put things in. And I know, I'm just letting you know, he'll be coming asking for some contributions from you all to help us to allow for seniors to come and attend. I know Commissioner Reed has donated funds, but I'm just letting you know we'll be reaching out to you all. But we are very thankful for the support we've got from Daytona State College. They're bringing in professional artists, but also they have some local artists here. And I think one of the days is already sold out for the theater. So it is going to be a very good play. I've read the script, and many of the people that will be in that script, you will know who they are based off of how the story is written. And so we just wanted to share that information with you. It'll be August the 25th through the 27th. Are the dates, and we'll send you all more information. And we're asking the community to come out. But the funds will help to provide for some people who may not be able to afford to attend, but also reception and support for the actors that are coming to the location from out of the area. And that concludes my report.
Good job. I plan to be there, and we'll be supportive of that initiative. And posting it on my Facebook page will continue. Anything else?
Thank you, Mayor. I've been asked to give you an overview of the requirements that would need to be met in order to raise commissioner salaries. By commissioner salaries, I'm including the mayor in that term. I'd sent out an email on July 5th. That email is on page 453 of your agenda if you want to look along. But the very short answer is that if you all decided today that you wanted to entertain the idea of having a salary increase for the commissioners, you would need to establish a salary review committee of at least 5 people, 2 of whom would need to be ex-city elected officials. You would need to have that committee started no later than 1 year before the next election. They would need to report to you by January 15th of 2024. You would need to have an ordinance in place increasing the salaries at least 6 months prior to the next election, and that salary raise could only take effect the first commission meeting after the next election. So when you put all of these deadlines together that are in both the charter and the code, if the commission wants to move on this and you don't want to wait until November 15th to establish a salary review committee that needs to report on January 15th after the holiday season, I would suggest that you establish that committee sooner rather than later.
My curiosity is, how did this come about? Like, when did this come up? How did we decide to this? When did this become a conversation, increasing salaries? How did that happen?
I've had an email request from at least one commissioner addressing what the timing requirements are. When I received that request, I saw that former City Attorney Jagger had also received and responded to an email request from another member of the City Commission on at least one occasion when he was here before he retired. And I then discussed it with the manager because I've got at least 2 different members of the City Commission asking about that. And of course, you can't have a discussion at all outside of a sunshine meeting. So because I've had more than one request, we thought we should put it on the agenda to put it on the floor so that you all could discuss it in a meeting.
However, that the one request only came because there were discussions about this through the Florida League of Cities and also about pay raises for elected officials that goes back over a year. So it was not just a commissioner asking about it. These are things that we periodically get in my office about what's the surveys are done for city managers' pays, what are the surveys for pay for the mayors and the commissioners. So these are things that we get oftentimes. I know the clerk gets recommendations. So it's not just one commissioner that said something to me. This is something that over the past year has come in as a survey as well.
But even if it was just one commissioner, it's that one commissioner's concerns and questions are valid. So you're doing the right thing. My question is, when was the last time the commission even had a raise?
So I can tell you that the last raise, and I'm putting quotes around the word raise, was in 2016. The reason why I'm putting quotes around the term is because prior to that year,
She said that wasn't a raise.
you had a listed salary and an additional amount of money that was intended to represent compensation for expenses. And so what happened as a result of that is you rolled the compensation for expenses into a new base salary. It didn't actually increase the amount of money that you were receiving a month.
Okay, and that expense was cell phone, right?
Yeah, and it wasn't a true reimbursement where you'd have to submit invoices. It was an additional amount of money that would really, under the law, be considered salary.
It really was, because the cell phone is necessary to do this job.
So, yeah, and so just to take that one step further, your last true salary raise was in 2006.
Dear God.
If you ignore the consolidation of what had been salary and an additional amount for expenses.
Okay, I'm going to
So-
speak on this too. Are you done? Go ahead.
I'm not. So my concern is probably not so much as it is a raise, more so as maybe a car allowance or something like that. I think residents would be more apt to be supportive of a car allowance, because I think the issue is we've not had any financial compensation over since 2006. So we know what gas is nowadays. We know that times are very different for commissioners, because organizations, people, communities, they want us at their events, and we need to be at those events. And it's very expensive to be at all of the events that commissioners need to be at this point. So even if we didn't look at a raise, we also could look at a car allowance, am I right? Or some kind of allowance as far as transportation is concerned.
So the charter restrictions and the code restrictions are based on the idea of salary. It's not a defined term. The manager and I were talking about hypotheticals about this the other day and wondering aloud, because I thought this issue might come up, how would you treat this issue? You're the commission. You can interpret codes and charter provisions in a reasonable way. However, you could get challenged if you were to determine that something that you're not having to submit invoices for and show that you've incurred costs, you could get challenged determining that a car allowance is not salary. I think the better way to go is if you're going to do a car allowance to show that that's a component of salary, that would be a salary increase. I think what you could also do is provide for reimbursement of your expenses, but that would require documentation but that would be a way to pay for those trips in a way that I don't think would be seen as salary, even if attacked.
I think if you just have a committee to review the procedure, review what it is, and let them come up with some recommendations, and then if you choose to vote on it and support that, we support it. I'm more of the mindset that I don't personally want to be bothered with invoices and all that. So just let them decide if they want to change your salary a little bit, then they change it some. I don't, and this was first brought up when I was elected, after the last mayor was Glenn Ritchie. I think he was the one who brought it up in terms of the mayor's salary, because he firmly believed that it should be great enhanced. I'll just say that, as well as the commission. I just gave pushback on that, and we just didn't do anything to consider it, because I really didn't want to be be in the seat and be supportive of that. But I did say to myself after a few years that, at the point in time that I plan to leave, I would be more supportive of making changes to that, and that would just be, me, that way it's taken care of before I left office, meaning at the point in time when I wasn't going to run, that I would be supportive of, in other words, I would push it. Then I just said I don't really want to have anything to do with it while I'm sitting in this seat, especially the mayor's salary, which was what he specifically advocated. And I think it was a part of the last charter review that he also brought that up, because he was the chair of the charter review, and that was a part of what he sort of tried to recommend. So I'll just say this: I think we should allow for someone to create the committee and let the committee make the decisions or recommendations. And then if we believe in them, then we embrace them. If we don't have to embrace them.
So I think the manager should come back, put a list of names out there, come back.
No.
We're going to pick the people who gives us our own raises. I don't think.
It's our responsibility.
Okay, well,
I mean, you can let folks, I don't care where they come from, but I don't let the manager select the board and the board for anything else.
I didn't say he select the board. I said come back with a list of names, since we have to have 5, and then we go over the list and pick the list. Okay, I didn't get into this for the money at all, but at the same time, they say this is a part-time job. I just want to let residents know this is definitely not a part-time job. I work over 40 hours a week doing this. My phone, my emails never stop, and wear and tear on my car. I pay for all my own gas, all my functions I go to, it comes out of my pocket. Then I see people out there on Facebook and said, oh, all the perks. Let me tell you, the only perk I've ever received is some flowers at Christmas from Margaritaville, and I believe we can only take $100 or less.
That's correct.
And Peabody Auditorium tickets that I didn't even go to the concert. That's the only thing I've been up, and I'm going on 3 years, haven't even had a vacation, and I keep trying. So I'm not asking, I'm just asking, I didn't get in here to lose money at all. But that's exactly what's happening. I am actually losing money by being elected official. And so I rather see a 1099 given to me, but at least I can write off my gas and everything. And we get paid like an employee. So I can't even write off all this stuff I'm getting. So, but like I said, I'm not here to make a decision of my own, what we get paid, but I heard him say it since 2006 was the last time. So I would like a board to look it over, and if they say no, we don't, then we don't.
And to your point, I didn't think about the fact that we would be appointing the people. I just don't like the manager to. I believe in a clear separation of who's in charge of what. The manager's in charge of his staff, but we're in charge of the manager. I don't like the manager appointing someone to direct my salary. And I'm not saying anything against the manager. We're fine, but I'm just saying what I don't like. So and that's why I think it's our choice. We should choose it, but if there's another way that it's done, maybe people can do like they would do on anything else and fill out an application to serve on this board, like they would do on any other board that we have, and then we come together like we select anything else.
Well, two
I,
have
I
to
like
be-
that sort of better.
Yeah, he said two have to be ex-commissioners.
That's right. Two of the
So we
members
gotta go and find those people.
would need to be, yeah. So obviously, there's only a limited number of ex-city commissioners in the area and around, maybe with respect to those potential board members, you all individually could email the manager, make sure you send him individual emails asking him to reach out to some of those commissioners, whoever it is you think might do well to serve on the board. And then the manager could report back to you whether, those ex-commissioners are willing to serve.
Yeah, okay. Well, that makes sense. I don't even know there's not that many of them
So
around.
how do we pick the board? Because, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, 3 citizens, and they fill out the same form other folks fill out, and then the 2 former elected folks fill out the same form, and then and then we pick, like we would anything else. We just sit down and vote who they are, and we pick.
Mayor and members of the city commission,
I'd rather not.
I do want to make one minor correction to what I was telling you. The requirement for the committee is that it be at least 5 members. So you're not bound to have only 3 members of the community. You could have a larger committee. I don't know that you'd want to do that, but I just wanted to mention to you that is within your power. So.
And I'm curious, we're holding space for the fact that they could come back and say, no raise, we're public servants. This was a choice we've made to enter into public office for 4 years. They just may say that. We're holding space for that. Perfect.
And one other thing, they could say that, and that's not binding on you. They're an advisory committee.
Right,
so,
that's just their suggestion.
Right.
Question. Some of us will be up for reelection when that comes up. We would have to be willing to face the heat from the people out there that are voting if we vote for it.
I ain't made much decisions on that, and I'm always willing to face the heat when it comes to election time.
Excuse me?
Always.
People out there who are voting shouldn't want you to go 18 years without some gas money. They don't want to be on their job and go 18 years without gas money.
Well, I know that.
I'm just saying.
And just the
Well, and they might, but I'm personally always willing to face the heat
Me too.
when it's
Sure.
election time.
Sure.
I love elections. I love campaigning.
And it's the
So,
cost of living. The
and
mayor and
bring
I
it.
have sat up here for 11 years without a raise.
Yeah.
11 years without a raise.
I didn't say I was against it.
I didn't say you were. I'm just making a comment.
It's kind of out of our hands. We get 3 people and 2 former commissioners, whatever they bring back.
Well, then we still have to vote for that.
We still have to
We still have to put our name on it to say that we approve this, so that the heat is there, and so that,
I'm not gonna vote for it.
folks who run against you may want to bring that up. But I happily go away knowing that I left it, if I choose to vote for that, because I believe in what I believe in. And I'll happily go away and let the next person have that, because
I
I
agree.
believe in it.
So let me just remind you what the deadlines would be, and this doesn't necessarily affect the concern that Commissioner Strickland had. The committee would need to be appointed by November 1st, would need to report its recommendations and findings to you by January 15th of the following year. The ordinance, if you were to adopt one, increasing salaries, that would need to be adopted at least 6 months before next year's election, and it could not take effect until at the earliest, the meeting after the election. So those are.
Say again, when does the committee have to be created so we can?
The committee has to be created by November 1st, but if you waited that long, you're giving a committee a little bit over 2 months, including the holiday season, to do its work, which is why I think that if you want to decide to do this, you should appoint the committee much sooner than November 1st.
I was asking so I can get Betty the information so she can bring something back, like the first meeting in September.
When is the charter review up also?
It's probably getting close to time. It's time. Been about 10 years. We did that when I first got up here. And so after this, it'd be time to get ready for charter review.
I'm going to jump
I have to
in
look
here.
at the date.
Actually, the city attorney and I are meeting next week to start going over the charter review process when we're going to get you guys a timeline of what needs to happen and when, so,
I knew it was time.
yeah.
I didn't have to tell me, I remember 10 years. Yeah. Okay, fine. Any other, objection to him, getting with Betty, and are we opposed to this?
I'm for it.
Yeah, okay, all right, okay, let's move forward. All right, we'll hear from residents.
Okay, well, we will now move on to our public comment forum. During this time, citizens are allowed 3 minutes to speak on any topic. Please be courteous and respectful of the views of others. Personal attacks on the city commission, city staff, or members of the public are not allowed. And our first speaker is Jack Crutchfield, and on deck is Marjorie Johnson.
How are y'all tonight? My comment tonight's on City Island tennis. I just wanted the commissioners to know
Could you
that,
state your name, sir?
yes,
Address,
Jack
correct?
Crutchfield, 122 Minerva Road, Daytona Beach.
Thank you.
Thank you, I'm sorry. Anyway, I just want y'all to know you have a real gym in the City Island tennis courts. I've been hit my first tennis ball there 54 years ago when I moved here after getting out of the Air Force. And I've had numerous good times of playing there, and it's a shame that we've let it get into such disrepair. I know we had storms, and there's been speculation that the courts aren't savable. I've talked to several companies that do that for a living, and they tell me that the acrylic pourable crack filler that those courts have, the cracks on them, they could be fixed with no problem, and with a total estimate of about $9,000 a quart. Now, if you have to replace those courts, you're looking anywhere from $500,000 to $750,000 if you have to move them with the lighting and everything else that has to go to it. We've already replaced the lightings at the courts there. We have a bathroom that's there, so all that's still been able to cost that wouldn't be accumulated, if we had to replace all those. Also, we have a lot of history with those courts. Our first female tennis pro came from Daytona Beach, Wendy Overton. She learned to play on those tennis courts. They've coexisted with the ballpark for over 100 years, and I can't see any reason why the ballpark would need to take them now. The Montreal Expos played there when those tennis courts were there. The Dodgers farm team played there when they were there, and I think that y'all being stewards of our money, it would be a whole lot easier to fix those courts than to try to replace them. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You played tennis 54 years ago after you got out the military?
Yes, sir.
Looking good, brother. Thank you.
Our next speaker, Marjorie Johnson, and on deck is Yumi Miranda.
Marjorie Johnson. I was limelighted big time in the Daytona Times, and I was honored for all my work here, coming here, correcting you all about some of the miscarriage of justice, especially when you took us out of the meeting and had us heard at the end of the meeting. When Chisholm was here, no one did anything about it, and I'm responsible for for getting all of these residents back in the meeting. I was congratulated by Ann Ruby and Will Bidoff. So tonight, I bought the paper here. We had prestigious people from the community that came and honored me for my key contributions to the community of the city of Daytona Beach. And it was said that it was time to recognize me for my extensive contribution to Volusia County and the city of Daytona Beach. It speaks volumes about me speaking out about the injustices that have occurred here in City Hall. So I'd like to say tonight, I heard you talking about a salary increase. Well, I've been trying to get in touch with the city manager, with you, Mr. Hendry, and with Paula Reed, no luck. The city manager met with me twice, more than you did since you've been here, maybe once or twice. Paula Reed, twice. So why would you be getting an increase in pay when you're not doing your job, you're not meeting with your constituents, and you're not answering their concerns? I like to thank Monica Paris and Ken Strickland. They have been accessible to me, and I have been able to contact them about any concerns that I have. Another problem I have is people walking in and out of commission meetings. At the last meeting, Juanita May left. She up and walked out the door. You're getting paid to do your job. Paula Reed wasn't here, but she was not on the video. So, I mean, we need some accountability here. This is looking really bad because I go to the city commission in Port Orange, Daytona Beach Shores. All of those people was here tonight. 3 of them, when I got up here and advocated to get the residents back in the meeting. Chisholm went over to Daytona and tried that. It didn't work. They stopped it. No, we're not going to have that. So those commissioners spoke up, and they did not allow him to take away the freedom of speech. So why would you be getting an increase? I don't think that Monica or Ken Strickland should suffer because they're doing an outstanding job. And so is Stacy Cantu. She did get our veterans back here. My son served in the Army 25 years. Sorry, radio person love Desert Storm. There's a statement in here about him and the important job that he's holding at the Department of Health. And my daughter, she's a human resource manager. So they do good work where they go. So I'd like to say to you tonight, if you're talking about an increase in pay, you need to be with these residents. And I would also like to say that giving out erroneous information and unprofessional conduct by city commissioners will not be tolerated. At the last meeting, Ms. Reed sat up here and told a blatant lie about what was paid on my road. That's not the amount. Talk to Bill and talk to Mr. Thomas, and they'll correct you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I want to say this because it's come up several times about if a person gets up, if a person goes to the bathroom, and all of the regulation, as if we aren't humans and we aren't people. And perhaps Ms. May did leave the other week, but I commend her for being here because she lost someone extremely close and dear to her, and she still made it through the meeting, and I commend her for that. So we don't know what's going on in people's lives. So you may get up here and just see us for the few times that you see us, for the few minutes or the few hours, but we have real lives, and we go through real issues and real things, and sometimes this is not a first priority for us all of the time because we have family, we have children, we have people that we're responsible for. And so if Miss May had to leave, Miss May, I commend you for even just showing up the other week. You did what you needed to do, and then you had to leave a little bit early, and I'm sure the rest of us are okay with that. So sometimes we get up here and we beat up on people and think we can just hammer them down and beat them with a billy club over the head and not realize that these people have lives too. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
I'd like to say that's exactly why we need a raise. It's not just about gas and going places, being beat up when you're trying to make a difference in the community in which you were raised in. You know, people have an opinion, and you're entitled to your opinion, but that doesn't mean it's always right.
Amen. Yeah. I'm always okay with folks going to the bathroom. All right.
Our next speaker is, I want to say Tom or Yam Morandi, and on deck is John Nicholson. Is there a Mr. Morandi? Or Miss Morandi?
What was your name, sir?
Yes. It's Yum Morandi. Okay. Please state your name and address for the record. My name is Yuri Miranda. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, my
I was
English.
close.
I'm from Cuba, so I'm trying to do my best. Okay. Well, I'm not sure why they sent me here. I've been here. I bought a property here in Daytona Beach, located at 223 North Peninsula, since 2017. I got all the permits from the city. I tried to remodel it, and at the end, basically, they pushed me to, I had to demolish the property after spending like $70,000. And I tried to I built a new house. And for me, it's hard because whenever I try to follow all the rules, but sometimes happen that they say something in their office, and then even when they are in the same office, they not communicate. But at the end, we are the people who pay for everything. At least I can pay. But now, for example, I had the permit, I had the Porsche, so that's what I don't know why I'm here, but okay. I tried to pull a permit for the screen enclosure on my property, and we are, in the permit, it's allowed the slab in the backyard. It's a slab, the 10 by 50. I used to do for people like a screen enclosure, so I'm sure that for the engineer and everything gonna be okay. However, they deny because they say, oh, you can do the screen enclosure, but without roof. I said, oh my God, I didn't know that. I don't know what is the difference having a screen enclosure with a screen on top, with a just 3-inch insulated panel, and say, oh, I didn't know. So they say, oh, you have to go to variance and pay the $450. Okay, you say, okay, I will pay. And I told the lady, oh, I didn't know, and I asked to the city for the permit for that next Thursday, and I did it in the weekend. Say, oh, you did it? Oh, send me a picture. I sent a picture, say, oh, you know what? You have to pay it twice. Say, oh, why? Oh, because you already did it. And I'm here because they say me that the only one that can waive the twice of the fee is the city commission. For me, it's a bureaucracy because they don't even know that I bid that just because I told them. But also, I think that sometimes it's not about money. It's $450. It's just that sometimes people add as a machine, and I came just to ask for the permit. I did it. My house is different. It's completely different to the neighborhood. Everyone is happy, and whenever I come to the city, believe me, it's hard to, because every time they find something.
Excuse me, your time is up, but are you aware of his situation? We want to.
Jim Morris, Deputy City Manager. What I think I heard described was that he worked without a permit, so when he got the permit, you pay double the fee for working without the permit. The penalty is you pay twice the permit fee. When you have worked without a permit, come back, get the permit, and get the inspection after the work, it's twice the number. I don't know the particulars, but that's what it sounds like.
I did receive an email from the permits and licensing employee who works with variances. If this is the same gentleman, I think the question was, would the commission be willing to waive the variance application fee? And I think that's what the gentleman's asking
Okay,
for.
I heard twice the fee. That was what I heard
Right.
from the back room. And the variance fee is a fee that everybody pays as a part of the process of coming to the hearing and the notice and everything else, if it's a variance fee. Yes, sir.
All right.
Are you gonna get with him, Jim? Are you gonna get with him to figure out what's the
What I'm going to do is get his phone number, and I'll try to figure it out tomorrow when I can get more help that can give me an accurate answer. From the standpoint of what the commission wants, what do you want me to do from here? Just figure it out?
Just figure it out.
All right, sir.
That's all I
Thank
can
you.
say. I don't want to tell you.
Come with me for a minute?
Thank you. Our next speaker is John Nicholson, and on deck is Sylvester Peterson. John here? Oh, sorry, I didn't see you. John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. A couple of things. With regard to the raising, it's been 16 years. 2 more years, it'll be 18 by the time it gets enacted. Truth be told, if I'm always arguing that we should constantly update, that we should never allow things to last forever, like 5 years, we should look into things because money changes, cost changes. It's logical that we should do the same thing with your salaries. All I ask is that we look at the salaries of those around us. As long as we're not overcompensating, you deserve to be paid. Now, I will admit, the 50, 60 commissioners over the last couple of years, some of them have done absolutely nothing. They show up twice a month. You never see them again. The following month, twice a month. Then you get other ones, like Ken. You'll see him 10, 15 times during the month. Stacy probably 20 times during the month. There are other commissioners that are well above what they're paid. So how do you compensate? There needs to be a way to compensate, but it's very hard to pay everybody the same amount if you're going by how much time they put in. So the only way to do it is if your salary is 23 and you bump it up 5%, 10%, whatever you do with the salaries for the employees, you bump up yours as well. All right? That's the only fair way to do it. Secondly, the Corbin Building, there has been somebody that expressed an interest. I would ask you to look at it very positively. We need to move on that building. City Island, I'm sorry, we need to ump that. If we look at what we did at Riverfront Park North, Riverfront Park South, then you go over that bridge to City Island, it's an asphalt parking lot. It looks terrible. We really have to look at the whole island, especially if we're going to put $30 million into the ballpark. We should look at the whole island and do it before we do that. With the land development code, temporary, I have a problem with the word temporary. When we go to a planning board and they say we need a temporary lot, I don't think 35 years is temporary. We had a temporary lot for the county. It was only temporary for 17 years. That's not temporary. There's a sign as you go over the Seabreeze Bridge by the marina. It was only supposed to be up there temporary because they were going to build a condo. So it's only going to be there temporary. That's been 30 years. So I'm asking you, when people say temporary, we put a time limit on temporary. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm
Our
curious
next
to know
speaker is
what
Sylvester
his
Peterson.
metrics are for when commissioners are out and about. How does he know when and where every commissioner is at every time, all the time?
He's just giving an example, I guess.
Hey,
I
good.
wouldn't worry about that. I mean, hell, I don't know what to say to what John said sometimes. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, good evening, everybody. How we doing?
Please state
Okay.
your name and address for the record,
My
please.
name is Sylvester Peterson, address 408 Fremont Avenue, Daytona Beach, Florida. I spoke at the last meeting 2 weeks ago about the issue going on Seagrave and Fremont and, down Seagrave, probably Live Oak, that area, about the prostitution and the drugs. Commissioner Parrish, I thank her. She went out and saw some of these areas. And I'm here now to speak on it because nothing has really changed. It's still little activity going on, and the areas that were trashy, they haven't been cleaned. They still look the same. So I'm speaking on that. And then the Travel Inn Motel, right down Ridgewood and Fremont. You know, it's a host for this type of activity. They're in and out. They're traveling in and out of there. And, you know, so they're part of the problem. Live Oak Park. These people be there in that area. They be in that area, and they keep it trashy up in that area. And for years, it's been dark. You know, if you go through there at night, it's very dark in that area. So it kind of like, I guess, they flock to that area because of that. I think so, because it's so dark in that area at night, and so they can probably hide or whatever they do. But it's very dark in that area, and it probably needs some lights in that area to like light it up or whatever to probably, you know, maybe that'll keep them. Probably gonna keep them out of there, but it'll probably help. But yeah, they flock in that area a lot, and it's trashy back like around that fence area by the railroad track and all up through there. Sometimes they're sleeping out there. And we know the policy, I think, is what? The parks close at a certain time, really. So they really shouldn't even be out there. But I'm speaking on that tonight again. And because I don't see a change. I don't see a change in the activity. I still see the same people doing the same stuff, you know. And yeah, I'm just asking for something to be done about that. And then that's it. That's all I got.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Sylvester, I just want to let you know, I did speak with Public Works. They're going to work with code to get it cleaned up. And there's an officer here also that will talk to you.
Our next speaker is Frederick Brown, and on deck is Ann Ruby.
That helps when you do the on-deck thing. I didn't get it, so I was a little slow getting here. Frederick Brown, 1508 Crescent Ridge. First of all, there's several commissioners made some really good statements. Commissioner Strickland, I have to agree with you, there is a beachside parking problem. And where the city has failed miserably is in the area of public transportation. We have a great number of asphalt jungles out there that aren't being used. When they do the Daytona 500, they do the parking and transportation. We need to do that for some of our other events. I know at the concerts, I'd love to go a lot of times. The parking lot's full, no place to go. It's a traffic jam. Uber's in the same mess. So, and there's no public transportation. So, and then they won't allow us to ride scooters up there either now. They've changed the rule on there, and it's gotten very heavy-handed. Personal attacks should not occur. Yes, you people in the big cushy chairs up front all ran for those seats. Yes, you are going to get a little more heat. That comes with the job. But I hate to see personal attacks coming either way. Yes, we all do have personal lives. I've been here through some, in fact, I just literally got out of a dentist chair to come running to this meeting. So I have, you know, issues. I've been through losses in my family as well. So I understand it. We are all indeed human. I agree with you, Commissioner Henry. However, it's still a job that has to be done. The three main topics I want to talk about, quickly, drinking water availability. I know you got a pitcher and glasses over here. We don't have anything. And now the $125,000 project for 2 toilets with single vendor, I have no idea when that's going to be done. And we have to go all the way downstairs for a drink of water. Now, I know it all sounded nice to get rid of plastic bottles, but can we bring them back at least until the construction's done? And maybe that's an incentive for your contractor to work a little faster. And then put a recycle bin for the bottles. I would like to see an intercity task team established amongst the 4 cities that are most affected by flooding. and that would be Ormond Beach, Holly Hill, Daytona Beach, and Port Orange. The only way we're going to make any real progress is we have to work together. We have to work together as a team. So I would really like to see this city commission establish a task force, which I would certainly love to participate in, and work with all 4 cities together to get our agenda, because the flooding is not just one city's problems. It's all of our problem here at East Daytona. So if we all work together instead of working separately or against each other, we'll get more accomplished. Utility responsibilities. Utility companies in here have been completely irresponsible. And I have to agree with both of the 2 previous speakers, but his comments about being too dark, I've said this I don't know how many times. Florida Power has not been a very good steward of our community. I filed reports almost a year ago and they still haven't fixed them. There's wires dangling all over the city. It just makes it look ugly. There's poles put up where they shouldn't be. We need to do code compliance on them as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ann Ruby, and on deck is Jenny Nazak.
Hi, Ann Ruby, 137 Park Avenue. First of all, I want to comment on the Dickerson Center. I love the way that's been painted outside. It is so amazing to see the effect of choosing wonderful paint colors. It costs the same amount of money to apply nice paint as it does to do beige plain paint. So good job on the Dickerson Center. Go down the street on down South Beach and look at the Windsor. They painted that with the white and the turquoise. It's stunning. They could have painted it all beige and it would be ugly. And with Project Delta, they're looking at doing that beige and brown. They shouldn't be allowed to do that. That should have some lively color in it too. But the only thing that my neighbor Sandy and I like doing more than coming here is going to developer-initiated meetings. Those are the neighborhood meetings for DIMS. We go to every one. Sign amendments, whatever it is, we go. So I naturally have some thoughts on this. Yes, the uses are too long, but you could also look at when the developer meeting is held. We were told on the Gel Corp meeting that that was enough, and they hadn't even really applied for the project, but that was going to be their neighborhood meeting. Well, it seems to me that if you're going to meet with the neighbors, you should meet once you have a PD finished with staff. And then if the neighbors need to have it modified, there needs to be modifications, modify it and have another neighborhood meeting. That doesn't mean that you need a new PD, but it does mean they need to touch base with the neighbors again and present what they think now is the final PD that will go to planning board. And I just think the timing of the PDs, the DIMS, could, and use of more neighborhood meetings, could help alleviate this long list of uses. Because sometimes a long list of uses is appropriate. Sometimes it is. If you're doing a shopping plaza, you need to get all those uses in there. You don't want to be, I can only do 2 things or 3 things. So you can't hamstring it that way. Sometimes a long list is appropriate. And most often what we hear that is not accurate in the meetings is timing. You know, on Silver Beach, we were told, oh, that will be started in a year and done in 2 years. And yet when you get the document, it says, well, we'll start in 5 years and be done in 10 years. Well, we need that kind of time frame. So at least they should, if you had a final PD that you presented at the meeting and it was emailed out as part of the DIM, part of the developer meeting, you could sit and read it and not be told, yeah, 1 to 3 years, when it's really 5 to 10 years in the document. So I think there are things we could do besides just limiting the list. I think that's important, but I don't think limiting it to a set number is the right way to go. But I think we need to look at involving the neighborhoods, the neighbors more frequently and later in the process, or maybe earlier. And now I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jenny Nazak, and on deck is Lori Cromes.
Good evening, fellow citizens and esteemed leaders. It's so nice to be here as always. Parking, I think that is a stellar idea for people to be able to have temporary, whatever, event parking lots. Locals earn a little bit of money. Local community organizations get some money in their pockets. Great idea. And we get flexibility so we don't have sea and sea and sea of permanent asphalt everywhere just to have enough parking. It'll also be great when we get some additional things like public transportation options and who knows what else. We're going to get lots of stuff. Water. We are all grown-ups here. But if anybody is unable, and I truly mean this because if you have your hands full, it can be hard to carry stuff. I will volunteer to convey upstairs from the very nice drinking fountain a cup full of water to anybody who wants it. I will be the Gunga Din of City Hall, okay? All right. Next topic, gun violence. The meeting about gun violence tomorrow, hopefully we'll get to hash out some possible solutions and so on. One major culprit that exacerbates violence, including gun violence, is heat, extreme heat. And so heat is a very severe public health issue, and there is a connection to violence. So as always, I'll keep pushing for heat mitigation strategies. Oh, very, very exciting. Next door to me in the, I guess it's not a city-owned empty lot anymore. Apparently it's been ceded to a nonprofit that's going to build an affordable house there. So yay, I'm a new neighbor. And my landscaping firm will donate pro bono native and edible landscaping plants and services if the people want it. Mason Avenue, I'm excited about the Mason Avenue project because it can be hard to ride a bicycle or walk along Mason Avenue. So super excited about that. Okay, I love our community centers. The Cherry Center, now the Dickerson Center looks so cool. All of our community centers are such fabulous places to hang out and get to see each other and hear music and run into government officials in a non-official setting. I mean, it's all really fun. And it really builds community. We do a lot to build community. I don't play basketball, but I loved seeing the announcement for something like old men's basketball game. Like, that's really fun. I shared that right away on my Facebook. Shared that right away. I think it's fantastic. And one of my friends who's over 40 got offended for being called old. I said, shut up and go play basketball. Okay. I'm looking forward to the Chance for Redemption play. I got my ticket for the matinee. Yay. Salaries. Oh my God. Yes, please. You need to be paid, and you are human. And yeah, really. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's all go to the bathroom.
Our next speaker is Lori Combs, and on deck is William Biddall.
Hi, my name's Lori Coombs, and I've been a resident since 1991, and I live in Georgetown in Daytona Beach. And I was a recent victim of the Ian hurricane, and I'm finally up in line to get assistance and help, and I was told to pull a permit so I could get back into my house. And I'm just requesting the $65 fee to be waived. Under the current conditions, it's just not enough time, the 3 months. I was told at permit it was 3 months and then 6 months was the deadline, but I've been patiently waiting in line for assistance. So I'm excited to finally, hopefully, get back into my house.
Yeah. So the permit that you're referring to is for?
$65. It was for part of, from lightning from the hurricane. It's part of the hot water heater, but then I also have other things I'm being fixed, like the roof, the drywall. Let's see, the vanity was water subjected, so that's.
And this was all damage done from?
Soffits, gutters, windows.
We didn't we waive the permit fees for that, but that time is over?
It went everywhere, but it ended December 22nd, and I know the city's still rebuilding and repairing, and I'm just, I live the Ian thing every day.
Well, that's why I'm asking. I'm trying to figure out if this is damage that's done from the storm and she still, is there something you can do?
We'll look into it. No, you said that you came to pull a permit and.
I can. It's
She
just
just wants it
$65, but
wants
it's
to-
every little bit helps. I was out of work last time because I couldn't leave my subdivision unless I had a canoe.
You were out of work.
I was out of work. When we went back to work, I still had to miss more work because I couldn't leave my driveway. The water was up to there was fish in my driveway.
Oh. That's so sad.
And turtles.
Fish and turtles were
Yeah.
in your,
And I'll probably be losing wages next week because I took off this week, but there was a little kerfuffle with the permit. Apparently, they were letting me know on email, and I was waiting, and I had been in a couple times, and they said, no, we'll get back to you. But then apparently, that's not quite what happened. You have to check online somewhere, and they said there's a hiccup, was what was told to me, with the new system. So now I'm going to be missing next week. Hopefully not the week after, when I'm supposed to be back at work.
okay. Yeah, but the $65, let's see if we can get her.
I think, too, it's the point of, to make it equitable. That wasn't just the $65.
Yeah.
Because, thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so I go.
Our next speaker is William Bidoff, and our final speaker is Ruth Traeger.
My name is William Bidorf. I live at 402 East International Speedway Boulevard. I am a proud resident of Daytona. And anyway, I grew up here. I love this town. And I really appreciate all of y'all because I know you all work a lot harder than a lot of people think you do. I know you work real hard because I'm wearing this shirt because she inspired me to help the alumni. So it's a good thing I represent. I know. Anyway, so I think it's unfair not to give our commissioners a fair raise. When was the last time that there was an increase? Do you know, Mr. Mayor? Or? So, in 18 years, you have not got a raise. That's unfair. Like, I employ people. If I didn't give people a raise, nobody would work for me. It shows your dedication. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's the truth. And all goods and services since COVID has gone up. So it's harder and harder for you to do your job. I've seen all of you, and actually all of you working hard, all of you. Okay, so secondly, I believe in my opinion, let me see, here we go. Okay, I already said it. The other thing is, I've been inspired by some of the commissioners about the First Step Shelter. How as citizens do we help do fundraisers to try to help? Like, can we raise money somehow along with the city for this First Step Shelter? Or things that, let's do something positive together. Let's, I don't want to come here and complain. Let me help do something with you, with your leadership. Because God knows I couldn't do your all's job. You all know what you're doing. You've been here for years. I know you've been here for years, and you've advised me, and I know I've been a pain in the butt. So that's all I wanted to say. And, most importantly in these times that we all need to stick together. We're going to have our disagreements. We don't need to be hurtful to each other. I certainly don't want to be hurtful to you guys. And God bless you, and thank you for your patience. Thank you. You're welcome.
And our final speaker is Ruth Traeger.
Hello, Ruth Traeger, 610 Bostwick Avenue, Daytona Beach. I am a former city commissioner, and I did not go into this for the money, and I'm sure all of you did not go either. We went into this business for the love of our city and wanting to do our part. I believe that after 17 years, it's way, way, way overdue that we look at the salaries. And I'm willing to serve on that committee if you would like me to.
That was our final speaker.
That's it. Do your job.
It's a great day to be in Daytona Beach, and it's a great, great day to have Miss Johnson as a part of Daytona Beach as a resident. Good night, Marjorie. Love you, girl.